Okay, so now we're going to center a ball of clay on the wheel to get ready to throw a cylinder. As you will know and remember, a cylinder is how every single pot that you ever make is going to start. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your bat is securely adhered to the wheel head. So what I want to do is I've got a little tiny bit of clay here, and I have dampened the wheel head, and I'm going to stick these little tiny little pieces of clay kind of like evenly spaced around the wheel, and I'm going to inspect my bat and see that it is warping, if it's warping this way or if it's warping this way. And I want the edges of the bat to warp down if it's warped. So when I look at this one, I see that I need to put it on the wheel this way so that it's warped the right way. What I want is for this bat to stick to those little balls of clay that I just put on the wheel head, so I want to dampen it too. So once that's done, and it is there, you have clay under there, everything's been dampened, then I'm just going to turn the wheel on and put some pressure on it so that it pushes it down really securely. Okay, to center the ball of clay, you want to start with a ball of wedged clay or brand new clay out of the bag that you have kind of like pounded into a ball. And I want to slam it as close as possible to the middle of the wheel head to get started. See? Securely adhered. And the first motion that I want to do is just to push down on the clay so that it sticks it to the wheel head. So I'm going to dampen it with water and then push down. So all I've done is I haven't done any centering, anything. I've just like stuck it to the wheel really good. So now to center the ball of clay, what I want to do is I want this part of the heel of my hand to be in contact with the clay, and that is what is actually putting pressure on it. But I'm not using my muscles to do that. I'm using the force of my body being braced and basically just being in the way of the clay. So I want to hook the elbow of my arm onto my stomach or hip bone or something like that and have my feet flat on the floor. I'm gonna like stick my butt kind of straight back out so that my back is straight, and I want my face to be over this ball of clay. I don't want to be leaning way far back. So I get the clay wet. It's always got to be wet. I have both feet flat on the floor. I have my wheel going at full speed, and I'm going to press against the clay with this part of my hand. My other hand, my right hand, is going to ride on the top just to keep the clay from pushing up. So I'm going to just push against it. You can see that I'm pushing against it with my arm, and hands are very solid and stable because my body is braced, and I can quickly push it right into motion. All that pressure and pushing came from this part of my hand. So now I did it without my other hand on top so you can see the motion, but this is what it looks like. These two hands touch each other. I push against it with my left hand using the heel of my hand braced against my body with my elbow, and the other hand is just riding on the top to keep it from raising up into a pointy mound. So the way that I know if something is centered or not is by touching it on either side, just keeping myself braced and with even pressure, just letting my fingers trail against it on either side. If it is centered, the clay will just slide against my fingers. If it is not centered, it is going to feel like it is beating against my fingers like that, because it will be doing that. It will be uneven, and it will be hitting one side more unevenly than the other. So the shape that I'm going for to make a pot from it is kind of like a gumdrop shape. So I want the base to be wide where it is attached to the wheel, and I want that to go up into a gradual mountain that's flat on the top. I keep doing this centering motion until my clay is not wobbling at all. Okay, so that is centered. You see that it's smooth and uniformly even in the middle of the wheel head. A couple things to note, and then we will throw this into a cylinder, is how wide it needs to be attached to the wheel. This is something that you'll judge as you go along, and how wide that area needs to be is dependent upon what you're making. If you're making something with a really wide bottom, like a real wide popcorn bowl or something, then you're going to want this to be this mound of clay, before you even start throwing it into a pot, to be very low and wide. If you're going to make a vase with like a bottle with a really tiny attachment to the wheel, very small little base when it's a finished pot, then this beginning mound can be taller and skinnier, because you don't need that much clay to create the bottom of your pot. So that's what determines the shape of the centered mound. Okay, that is centering.